Hello, friends. It's time for book number 2. Book number 1 was Is It a Choice by Eric Marcus, a great writer, nonfiction writer, writing from a sociological viewpoint, if you will. The second book I'm going to share is also by him because during the coming out process, what I heard quite often was that being gay was a modern phenomenon. It was something new in the modern, decadent Western society. Well, as we go through these 300 plus books, you're going to see that this goes all the way back to so far that we don't know where it goes back to. But Eric Marcus did an awesome project called Making History. In this book, he did interviews with roughly 40 to 50 lesbian and gay men who each, or as a group, or as a couple, made a mark and helped to move forward the struggle for gay and lesbian equal rights from 1945 to 1990. This is such a good book. I can't tell you how much I learned from this book. The women and men interviewed were fascinating, and it was a truly cover-to-cover, can barely put it down read, even though every chapter is a different person. But as you go through it, he interviewed such really name-breaking people as Frank Kameny, who fought the government. He lost, but then eventually, after his death, he won. Dr. Evelyn Hooker, she was instrumental in studying gays and lesbians in the late 40s and 50s, because at that time we were a mental disease. And all of the people that she had seen in her profession, well, they were mentally ill in some way or another. But she saw them only because of their aberrant or their very tragic behaviors. In other words, they had sociological issues. And it was a couple of gay men that approached her to study them. And her answer is like, well, okay, if maybe, but who would be gay? And they said, well, we are. And she said, really? Like you are? And as she studied and interviewed, she discovered that gay people are no more prone to be sociologically than non-gay people. Pretty cool. And it was her work that eventually led to the American Psychiatric Association and the other one that I can't think of right now in 1972 that removed homosexuality from its list of mental diseases, because they finally recognized it isn't a mental disease, it's just the way some people are. So the interview with her is really interesting. Dear Abby. He interviewed Dear Abby, and what she had to say, even going back to the early days of her column, it's just wonderful how someone who was so prolific could help to change the mindset of people who just didn't think they knew gay people. Randy Schultz, God rest his soul. What a great guy. He wrote the books and the band played on, and Conduct Unbecoming. Look for those books. They will be coming up, and we will be talking about them. Nancy Walker, David Kope, who was the first NFL player to come out. So these and many more are in here, but I am going to share one part of this book. It's on page 268. I'll show it to you here. It's Bette Midler at the Gay Pride rally in 1973. Vito Russo, a film historian who was a friend of hers, I'm just going to read what it says here because this is a really beautiful quote from Vito. As they were preparing for the Gay Pride rally in Washington Square in Greenwich Village, Vito, who served as an MC for the event, the rally at that point, because this was only 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, was really only 3 years out from the Stonewall riots. And that was a time when gay liberation, lesbian liberation, feminism were all just on the rise. So the rally used to be a battleground for ideas and for politics. Vito knew that tensions would be running high that day because a group of radical lesbians were opposed to a couple of the comic drag queens who were scheduled to be part of the entertainment program. Drag was high on their hit list at that time. So Vito began working on Bette Midler in the weeks in advance to come and sing to sort of calm things down. Well, the lesbians heckled the drag queens throughout their numbers, and I bet the drag queens were too peaceful about it in return. And when it was over, one lesbian got up and made a very angry speech in which she said that men who impersonate women for profit insult women. All hell broke loose in the audience between the men and the women. And Bette got up on stage and sang Friends. She had brought Barry Manilow with her. Bette worked like a charm. It wasn't that the issues were forgotten, but she provided a tremendously healing presence. It was a great thing for Bette too. She said later it was one of the greatest things she did, that she felt like she was Marilyn Monroe singing in Korea. And that's a quote from Vito Russo. The book is amazing because it gives you such a good snapshot of, in this case, U.S. history from just after World War II up till 1990. And I can't recommend it enough. Again, it's Making History by Eric Marcus. Have a great day.